Okay, welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to really getting up to speed. Today, we are diving headfirst into something pretty significant, the upcoming TICAD 9 summit. This meeting, it could be huge for the economic ties between Kenya and Japan, and yeah, for Africa's development path more broadly. So our mission today, dig into the sources, pull out the key nuggets about this event. We want to get past the headlines, understand why it really matters for the countries involved, sure, but also for you listening in. Is TICAD 9 actually a game changer for Kenya? Or maybe just another step? Let's find out.
That really is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
So TICAD 9, that's the Tokyo International Conference on African Development. It's happening August 20th to 22nd, 2025 in Yokohama, Japan. And this thing has history. It started way back in '93. It's basically Japan's main stage for its Africa policy.
Yeah.
What's really important, I think, is who's behind it. It's not just Japan. You've got the UN, UNDP, the World Bank, the African Union Commission, major players co-hosting. That tells you something about its weight.
And adding to that weight, Kenya is definitely going, right? High-level delegation, President Ruto leading it. And you're saying this isn't just talk. TICAD is actually set up for making deals, for getting concrete projects moving.
Exactly. That's the key difference, understanding the stakes. Why TICAD 9 matters for Kenya.
Okay, so if it's built for deals, why is TICAD 9 such a critical moment, maybe a unique chance for Kenya right now? What's the strategic edge?
Well, the interesting thing about TICAD, how it's structured, is that it mixes the top-level political talks with a really big business program. Exhibitions, too. Often you see JETRO, the Japan External Trade Organization, heavily involved. And it's not by accident. It's designed specifically to broker actual projects. So for Kenya, it's a golden opportunity, really. A chance to pitch directly for significant Japanese investment. We're talking across key areas. Infrastructure, definitely. Energy, health, manufacturing, even the digital space and, developing skills, human capital. It's like a massive economic matchmaking event.
That's a pretty wide net. Can we narrow that down? Where specifically is Kenya hoping to attract that Japanese capital? What are the priority asks?
Nairobi's been quite clear on its priorities. They're really pushing on logistics, expanding Mombasa port, developing special economic zones, the SEZs. Dongo Kundu is the big one there. Clean energy is huge, too, especially geothermal. Kenya has massive potential there.
Right.
And then modern urban transport plus value-adding industries. That's critical. Looking bigger picture, President Ruto's agenda is set to emphasize trade facilitation, making trade easier, aligning with the FCFTA, the Continental Free Trade Area, and, crucially, partnerships with the private sector. The bottom line, it's about jobs in boosting Kenya's exports. Simple as that. The baseline, current state of Kenya-Japan relations.
Right. Let's get some context here. Before we look too far ahead at TICAD 9, what's the current picture? How do Kenya-Japan economic ties look today? Give us that snapshot.
Sure. The 2024 trade figures paint a pretty clear picture. Kenya exported about $12.5 billion to Japan, mostly agriculture, flowers, tea, coffee, nuts. The usual suspects, you could say.
Okay, the classic exports.
Exactly. But then look at the other side. Japan exported $153.1 billion to Kenya. That's mostly vehicles, steel, machinery.
Wow. Okay. Big difference.
Huge difference. The balance is heavily in Japan's favor. Shows how important Japan is as a supplier for Kenya's development for industry. But trade is growing overall, and that's something Kenya wants to build on, maybe rebalance a bit by getting investment in local production.
Makes sense. And beyond just buying and selling, what about development cooperation?
Well, that's where Japan is incredibly significant. Kenya is actually the largest recipient of Japanese Official Development Assistance, ODA, in all of sub-Saharan Africa.
The largest.
Yeah. And this isn't new. It's long-running support. It's touched pretty much every key sector: ports, roads, energy, water systems, health, education, you name it. Just to give you a scale, the cumulative ODA up to fiscal year 2022, it's over 700 billion yen. That's loans, grants, technical help combined.
Over 700 billion yen. That's substantial.
It really is. It shows this deep, long-term commitment from Japan to Kenya's development. That's the foundation, really, for these talks at TICAD 9. 3, Kenya's agenda. What specific goals will be pursued in Yokohama?
Okay, so Japan's been this quiet but massive partner for years. With that kind of history, that investment already there, what's Kenya specifically asking for now in Yokohama? What's on the shopping list, so to speak?
Right. Building on that base, Kenya's agenda seems pretty focused. For logistics and industrialization, they're really pushing to fast-track the Dongo Kundu project in Mombasa. That's the big SEZ plan, plus the related infrastructure, the roads, the bridge links. People often call it the Mombasa Gateway Bridge. These aren't brand new ideas. Japan's backed them before, but now it's about acceleration.
Getting them over the line.
Exactly. And expect more focus on Mombasa port upgrades, too. Japan's already funded several phases there, new berths, more yard space. It's vital for Kenya as a regional hub.
Makes sense. What about energy? You mentioned geothermal earlier.
Yes, clean energy, particularly geothermal, is right at the top. It's a smart move for Kenya using its natural resources. And Japanese finance, Japanese suppliers, they're already deeply involved. JBI, the Japan Bank for International Cooperation, recently backed deals for geothermal equipment exports to Kenya. So they're building on existing partnerships.
Okay, and manufacturing, mobility.
Yeah, the idea there is to build on talks they had in 2024, focusing on vehicle assembly locally, maybe exploring electric vehicles, EVs, getting integrated into the supply chains of the big Japanese car makers, the OEMs.
So not just importing cars, but building capacity locally.
Precisely. The narrative is this creates good industrial jobs and helps with cleaner transport for Kenyan cities, which are growing fast.
And finally, health and human capital.
There, the plan seems to be scaling up things they've done before. Cooperation on medical oxygen supplies, strengthening health systems generally, plus things like scholarships, training programs, skills initiatives run by private companies. You often see these as important side events at TICAD. It's about building that human capacity alongside the infrastructure. 4. The foundation. What's already on the scoreboard from past engagements. And look, to really get why TICAD 9 matters now, you have to remember President Ruto's trip to Tokyo back in February 2024. That wasn't just a warm-up. It really laid the groundwork.
Right. That was a significant visit.
It was. Kenya announced something like KSH's $350 billion in agreements then, mostly for infrastructure and energy. And crucially, that included big chunks specifically for Dongo Kundu and that Mombasa Gateway Bridge we mentioned.
So these aren't just wish lists, they're follow-ups on previous commitments.
Exactly. Concrete steps were already taken. And beyond infrastructure, there were other key deals. Kenya agreed to explore issuing a samurai bond in Japan that's borrowing directly from the Japanese market, about KH 40 billion potentially.
A samurai bond. That sounds interesting. What's the significance of that?
Well, it's basically Kenya tapping into Japanese investors directly, diversifying funding away from just, say, multilateral loans. It shows growing confidence from Japan in Kenya's economy. It's a strategic move. And there was also JBIC support agreed, around KSA 30 billion, for heavy machinery, the kind you need for these big construction projects.
Okay, so it's clear this isn't starting from scratch. There's this pipeline worth hundreds of billions of shillings, already agreed upon in principle. So President Ruto's goal at TICAD 9 is essentially to push these deals forward, turn those agreements into actual funded projects on the ground.
That seems to be exactly the plan. It's about converting pledges into tangible progress, accelerating implementation, what to watch for, key deliverables, and expectations.
All right, let's bring it home for our listeners. When the news starts coming out of Yokohama, what are the practical things? What should you be watching for to see if this summit is really delivering for Kenya?
Definitely look for signed MOUs memoranda of understanding, or maybe letters of intent. The key is whether they convert those earlier frameworks into funded projects, especially in those key areas. The Mombasa Logistics Hub, getting utilities sorted for the SEZs, adding more geothermal power. Those are the immediate signs of real movement.
Funded projects, not just agreements. Got it.
Right. Also, keep an eye out for announcements from Japanese companies themselves, private investment commitments. Think about those car manufacturers maybe deepening their involvement in Kenya's auto sector, or big equipment makers, logistics firms, energy companies saying, okay, we're investing here.
And how these things get paid for.
Good point. Watch the financing structures. Expect to see more public-private partnerships, PPPs, and blended finance.
Blended finance. Explain that quickly.
Sure. It's basically mixing public money, like from JBI or JICA, Japan's development agency, with private investment from banks or companies. It helps make big, sometimes risky projects more attractive to private capital.
Okay, makes sense. Less risk for the private sector.
Exactly. And of course, any updates on that samurai bond, if they're moving forward with it, that'll be significant too. And one last thing maybe. Look at who's actually there with President Ruto. Senior economic officials, foreign affairs people, plus the fact that the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Foreign Minister Musalia Mudavadi is already in Japan for related meetings. It signals this is serious business. Expect a mix of government to government, business to government, and even business to business talks happening. It's a full court press.
Right. So wrapping this deep dive up, it feels pretty clear. TICAD 9 isn't just another date on the diplomatic calendar. It genuinely looks like a pivotal moment for Kenya-Japan economic relations. Could be a real catalyst for Kenya hitting some of those big development goals. Infrastructure, energy, jobs. It shows what sustained partnership can look like.
Absolutely. And maybe that leaves a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. Beyond the deals signed next week, how might these deepening ties with Japan, economic ties, development ties, shape Kenya's role in the region, its leadership ambitions, and its wider economic transformation over the next decade, especially in those future-focused areas like clean energy and industrialization? What might the long-term ripple effects be across Africa from these specific partnerships? Something to think about.